We are live. Josie here with Emotional Wisdom. And I'm waiting for people to jump on. I know it's Sunday and it's a beautiful day outside. So I'm sure everyone is out there having a good time with family and friends and all that good stuff. Okay, so I do see some of us jumping on there. I'm excited to show you guys my hat with my logo that an amazing, yay, hey Kalia, hey girl, that Voltaire Victorio created, his art, V Graphics. I'm also going to put his website below once this live is over for anyone that's interested in in a logo. He's absolutely amazing and he's extremely talented. So if you're seeking for someone that is of excellence in his work, definitely he's the one to talk to. Look at my logo, it's amazing. I absolutely love it, especially with the hat. It's awesome. So also these hats will be for sale. Once I have them at hand, I will be inviting all of you guys to purchase this amazing hat. I wear hats all the time, so for me it's exciting. Anyway, okay, so I am going to begin with today's discussion. Today's discussion is going to be about a TED Talk video that a dear friend / client sent to me. And it was amazing. When I started looking at the video and I finished watching it, hopefully all of you guys viewed it, who is on, it immediately made me think of a personal experience that it totally touched home. It was powerful too. The moment she got to the part that made me completely just think and associate her story with my story, I was like, wow, I have to create a video. I have to create a video emphasizing on this awareness that I came to in 2000 and I want to say this awareness, in 2018 was when it really was, this idea was, I was able to let go of the idea that I was carrying with me for many, many years. But okay, so this TED Talk was performed by Dr. Trillian Small. She is a counselor, and I find her story very fascinating. It is where she was watching a movie. In this TED Talk, she basically mentions that she's watching a movie, and it's a love story, and how this woman ends up finding the man of her dreams, basically. And she starts pushing him away, and he's completely confused because he's like, why are you pushing me away? She's like, because you're everything I wanted. So Trillian, the counselor, the doctor, right? She is, she has a sense of connection. She looks at the movie, and that movie kind of makes her want to introspect. And she starts realizing, I want to be able to have that kind of relationship. And so she then seeks therapy. Her as a counselor, right? She goes and seeks someone to help her understand why she is in the position that she's in. When she begins to convey this information to her therapist, he basically listens to her express her relationships and so forth. And he basically tells her that she is attracted to dismissive men. Basically, men that are not really there 100% committed. They basically have her in the sidelines, if you will. She was triggered. She was like, basically in her head, how dare you tell me that I am attracted to dismissive men if I'm here to want to understand why I am not attracting men that I prefer. that she basically deserves. She goes home, and then she starts really pondering about the whole concept and realizes that, oh man, I am secretly, subconsciously, or unconsciously attracted to the men that are just, that basically are not fully committed, that are not really searching for her and looking for her and contacting her constantly. So that really makes her introspect and start asking herself questions like, oh man, he's right. I am attracted to dismissive men. She then proceeds to give an example that we associate experiences to things. We categorize them, like, for example, when I ask you to think of love, people tend to associate the strongest memory or experience with love, with the word of love. Some people think of heartbreak. If you had a terrible heartbreak, you tend to associate love as dangerous, as a liability. Basically, we associate everything to something, right? According to the experience that we had with that particular thing, person, basically person, place, or thing. So she also mentions that she was watching this experiment take place. And this I don't know if she was watching it somewhere. It's an experiment where they had rats. And basically, whenever they sounded an alarm, they would then shock the rats. So the rats were being conditioned to associate an alarm, a sound, with a shock. Okay? So they did that. They conditioned the rat to basically associate sound, an alarm, with a shock. And then from there, they then wanted to reverse it. They wanted to uncondition the rat to associate the sound with shocks. So what they did was they kept on sounding the alarm, and with no shock attached to the alarm. Therefore, finally, when the rat stopped expecting a shock, that phase, that moment is called extinction. That is what she then experiences thereafter with her father. So she was unaware that for 26 years she was carrying an idea about her father and about men. And this idea that was in the depths of her, in her subconscious, unconscious, okay, was that she wasn't good enough for a man, that she was gonna fall short, and she wasn't essentially worthy for love. So she had no idea. She's obviously a progressive, intelligent woman, self-made. And it's interesting because us women who are very independent, that are strong, sometimes we are strong because we were forced to be strong. Because life basically showed us that things can get dangerous and that we need to come through for our own selves and we can't depend on anyone else. And sometimes, paradoxically, we end up pushing away, qualified men, men that could help us, men that can support us, not in the sense of support us financially all the way, everything. I mean, that can support us emotionally, that can support us financially, and that can basically provide whatever it is that we would want to experience, basically. But independent women, we tend to be like, we got it all. We don't need a man. And unfortunately, we start creating those barriers. And those barriers are, energetically speaking, we start not then attracting men that can provide what we ultimately want. What we innately are designed is to feel protected, right, and supported. So it's very fascinating how those strong women, and I include myself, how we don't really realize that we become strong and independent because there was pain involved, depending on someone that we needed, basically emotionally, that we admired and cared for, or that we wanted their approval emotionally. So anyway, back to Trillian, the doctor, Trillian Small's realization that she was carrying this bag of lies, or a particular bag of lie, that was very heavy, that she was carrying for 26 years, and that lie was. So she receives a phone call after all the introspection that she was doing from her father. And her father basically mentioned to her that he was looking for her, and that he has been looking for her, and that he never stopped loving her. So from that moment that she heard her father convey this to her, she started crying immensely. And from that moment, extinction occurred. Extinction that she refers to as when a condition, a belief just no longer stands, no longer is the truth, basically it ceases to be valid. So she realized, whoa, for 26 years, I had this belief system that my father didn't love me, that I wasn't good enough, and that didn't qualify for unconditional love, and that I wasn't worthy. And that was a complete lie. So she became a match to her father, finding her and conveying this. This is what's fascinating. Here she started this journey of wanting to understand why she wasn't attracting qualified men. And she starts unpacking the real core reason why she wasn't a match to these men, and attracts her father. Father finds her and tells her the truth. And she's now liberated. So from that moment that she mentioned that, I remembered a truth. Now is the storytelling, guys, that I'm going to, jump into. A truth or a lie that I was carrying as well for many, many years. So to give you a backstory on this, I was daddy's little girl. I still consider myself daddy's little girl. And, but I was really, really connected with my dad. It was like a need. I needed my father to be there. I felt this strong connection, and that he was able to protect me. And, but during the course, as I was getting older, I also started seeing that he had an expectation from his children, more so the men, but had an expectation from his children. And this expectation stemmed from the way he grew up in his family. So how did he grow up? When he started getting older and was able to work, he would send money to Mexico to his parents, practically his whole check. And for him, that was a symbol of respect and love. This is what you do when you love your family. You want to support them financially. And of course, he didn't receive the affection and the kisses and the hugs. That's not really the way he translated emotion or love. The way he registered love and attached love to was provide for his family when he's able to work and make money. So that's what he associated love and how it looked like. So when he had his kids, he was hoping, he was living still from his childhood, from his personal experiences, and he was hoping to have his kids do the same for him, basically help him. Because my dad always was a strong, worker, and he was very dedicated and save his money, almost to the point where we would get super paranoid about not having enough for unforeseen events, as I mentioned in previous videos. And he was always very cautious. So knowing my father, he would have really appreciated his children once they started working to give him money. So So going back to my dad associating love with money, I then started thinking that, and I remember I would promise him that I was going to be really, really wealthy and that I was going to help him money wise so he doesn't have to stress out. Because I, as a child, got to witness my dad go through a lot of stress and just because it was a lot that he had to, manage. He worked many hours, long, lengthy nights and stuff. So I can see how for him it was very exhausting and tiring. And of course, taking care of 6 children, you could only imagine, that's pricey. So I knew that I wanted to do that for my dad. So I already grew up with that need, knowing that, oh man, I want to help my dad from that space of me seeing him, feel stress. I want to help him. Well, as we were getting older, I started noticing myself distancing myself from my dad through events that happen that you grow up, part of being a teenager as well. Certain, information was brought to my ears where I started just like pushing my dad away. And unfortunately, so I then started noticing that he would vocalize more often that he doesn't have kids that want to help him out financially. And again, mind you, my dad was conditioned to believe that when a child cares about you, they help you, they want to help you monetary wise, financially, because that's what he did for his parents. And I knew where it came from. It was interesting because even though he operated like this as I was growing up, I knew that it came from his own filters of his upbringings and his parents' upbringings and so forth. So we really didn't take it personal. But what's very fascinating, okay, is that it started getting more intense. It's when I came back from Mexico doing charity work, and doing that, trying to register that nonprofit and doing that community service back in 2014. When I got back from Mexico in May of 2015, I was still in depression, and I decided, and it's funny because my dad, would make it more known the need of him, of him needing to see that his kids loved him. So what was very interesting is when I became vulnerable and told my family, because my family didn't really know that I had suffered from depression, and how I had it as deep as my father, because my father also suffered from depression. So finally, I gave myself that opportunity to share with my siblings that I suffered from depression, just like our father, and that I'm sorry if I wasn't there for them in the way that they were expecting for me to be there, but that it was because I felt isolated and I felt alone and I felt not understood and I needed to foster and caretake myself. And they understood. My dad, what's very, very interesting is my dad felt that because I was depressed, I was in a deep, dark night of the soul that, many people call it. He felt my rejection or my push away of everyone. And he took it personal. So he translated that as, oh, my daughter doesn't love me anymore, right? And we had a deep, deep bond. So again, after me getting vulnerable in 2016, ends of 2015, 2016, with my siblings, somewhere along those lines, my siblings understood why I was more on my own all the time. And I then decided to tell my father. So here's the correlation here, okay? I didn't realize that I was pushing my dad away as well because, well, I did, but I didn't realize that I was pushing him away to the degree that I was. Because he would make comments when I would go and visit him or go to where, to his home, that my sister would do X, Y, and Z and give him money. And he would really put it in my face. He would emphasize on the fact that my sister bless her soul, would give him money and basically throwing it in my face as to why wasn't I doing the same thing. Okay, so that started getting more intense, more intense. I mean, he literally, it seemed like he would go out of his way just to tell me how Lizzie did this for him. Lizzie gave him this, and Lizzie gifted him money or gifted him gifts or whatever the case may be. And it was getting bigger. That uncomfortableness of him throwing it in my face that my sister was doing this for him, in the sense of giving him money and giving him gifts, that she was doing this for him. And basically all he had to say is, what about you? Why are you not doing this to me? But I know that that's what he was insinuating. I remember leaving the house and me saying, feeling angry. I'm not going to lie. I would feel angry, but I would then calm myself and tell myself that he didn't know any better. That this is how he grew up and he's translating love with money. And, I need to just relax. And I did that. And guess what? That kind of helped, but it wasn't the solution. It wasn't really, I wasn't getting to the root of the problem. And like I said, this situation was getting more bigger. And mind you, my dad did lend me money. There was a moment in time where I was in a situation where I needed his assistance. And he lent me money. And I always had that in the back of my head. So when he would behave like this, I myself was judging myself. Oh God, he's judging me. Maybe he's upset and angry at me that he lent me this money and he wants it back and I haven't paid him back. And I was really judging myself. I was the one that was doing it as well on another level. And I didn't realize that I was doing that. So that weighed over heavy. So as he would say this to me about my sister, look what your sister did for me. Look what she gave me. And basically, you didn't give me anything. I then would think of that also. The fact that, oh my God, I owe my dad money and I haven't paid him back. So that kind of kept me sunk deeper into shame. Really, it's shame. Finally, there was a moment where it got ugly. I went over to his home and he basically mentioned again about my sister, and it was so obvious what he was trying to tell me. I felt so angry. I stormed out of the house. I went into my car, and mind you, anger really only is a cover-up when we feel a sense of vulnerability, or if something is at stake or is threatened, basically. So I felt threatened. I felt vulnerable. I felt sad. So I didn't want to feel that, because essentially that tends to be a not very empowering emotion. Anger is a more empowering emotion. So we tend to grab onto anger to take our power back. But anger is only a cover-up for a real problem, real emotion. Basically, something within us got threatened, and it is an aspect of us that we feel very vulnerable in. In my case, is my dad doesn't love me. So I started understanding that I was having a belief system. The belief system being, my dad doesn't love me unless I give him money, unless I give him things, unless I do this, and that for him. And I noticed that there was, instead of me doing all of that for him so I can receive his love, I noticed that I decided to go the polar opposite, because people can either go two ways when they need someone they care about approval. When they need someone they care about's approval, we either tend to give them everything and at our expense, or we tend to not give them on purpose, or not really knowing that we're not giving that thing to them, because ultimately we're wanting them to love us unconditionally. We want them to accept us just as we are. We don't need to give them anything. We don't need to do anything. We don't need to be anything. We're in a sense, secretly, manipulatively, in a sense, trying to get their unconditional approval / love. So I took that route. I know there were moments where I could have been generous. In fact, I didn't go to my dad's Father's Day barbecue that was held. I want to say this was held in 2018. 2018. And I didn't. I mean, because I was hurt. I was like, no, I'm not going to go because he's making me feel like I'm not worthy of his love if I'm not giving him money. So, like I said, going back to that last painful experience where I stormed out of the house and I was angry because that was a more empowering emotion to feel instead of feeling sad and hurt. And I, again, talked myself out of the situation saying my dad knows not better. He's, comes from a culture that this is what they did. This was his filters. This is how we live life. Love equals giving the people you love money in a sense, or your parents money. But here's the interesting factor, synchronicity and how it works. I ended up attracting an intuitive woman, a woman that has deep discernment. Some people call them clairvoyant or psychics. This woman said to me, and this was, whoa, eye-opening. This woman said to me, "You are suffering a deep pain." And I go, okay. She goes, and it's in reference to your father. You feel so saddened about your father. And I was like, okay. And she's like, because you feel your father tossed you to the side. And I'm telling you, the moment she used tossed to the side, I felt overwhelmed of emotion. I was like, oh my God, that was the exact words that I would tell myself. An aspect of me would say, God, it just feels like my dad tossed me to the side because I don't give him money anymore. I don't do all these things that I used to. So now he tossed me to the side and now is favoring my sister because she's doing this for him. Oh my God. So I started getting overwhelmed with emotion. And then what really got me, and I started bawling heavy like her, like Dr. Trillian Small, was when she said, and you're not validating that little girl that wants to cry. That little girl that feels so hurt and pained about just being tossed to the side because she's not giving him what he wants. You're not letting her mourn, essentially. You're not giving her that voice to cry. And I promise you, I started bawling. I remember I was doing so much inner work that evening. I started writing and I started just allowing that aspect of me to, I started allowing that aspect of me to just express. And what this is where it gets really trippy and amazing. Okay, guys, I shit you not. Excuse me. I promise you, this cannot be made up. I mean, I then go to my father's home after all this inner work that I was doing just that one night. I don't remember when it happened, 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later. I don't remember the duration, but I end up going to my father's house. And he is acting normal. He literally looks at me and goes, "Hi, mija," and is acting like nothing had happened. Greeting me, talking to me. I am mind-boggled. I was mind-boggled, like, what in the world, what reality, parallel reality am I living in? Okay, so just to test the waters, I end up going back, okay? I want to say maybe like about a week later. My dad was still acting the same. Basically, like nothing happened. Like he didn't have resistance towards me. Because that's what I was feeling. I was feeling his resistance. Like he was angry at me. And I was like, whoa. But he wasn't feeling that, right? These last 2 times, he was like normal. He was embracive. His energy was inviting. In fact, as if he was excited to see me. Super amazing. I even remember telling a dear friend, like, oh my God, you're not going to believe what happened, because this friend of mine kind of practically knows everything. So, to fast forward, August of 2018, when I experienced my own extinction, okay, I decided to tell my dad about how I was feeling, about how he made me feel, how I as well suffer from depression, and opened up. He then decided to put his guard down. Although I sensed him better, he then decided to put his guard down and say, you know, mija, I treated you like this because I was angry that you tossed me to the side, that you didn't love me anymore, that I wasn't important to you. When you were little, I was important. I was your most important thing. We had this amazing bond. He was crying. He started to cry. And, oh God, I'm even starting to cry, or feel emotional. And he expressed himself in a way that I've never heard him. He also then said, it hurt my heart when you didn't show up at the barbecue for Father's Day. You were the only one. And you were the only one that my soul felt like needed there. I repeat, he said, and it seemed like you were the only one that my soul felt it needed there, present at the barbecue. I started bawling with him. And then, what really, the extinction, this is the extinction, was when my dad said, and that money that I lent you means nothing. I don't want anything from you. I don't want money. I don't want gestures. The only reason why I said that was because, in a sense, I wanted you to make you feel the same way I felt. I wanted you to feel the same way I felt, he said to me. He goes, but I don't want none of that. I don't, don't pay me. That is for you. That's a gift. He goes, I don't want any money. I just want the love that we had when you were little. That was powerful. I swear I felt just like Dr. Trillian. Yes. I just felt like her when she had her extinction moment. I said, wow, I really was believing for so many years that my dad loved me conditionally, that he only loved his children, including myself, if we were to gift him things, give him money, give him things, because that's the way he associated love. And when he said that to me, that he was not wanting me to pay him back, and he didn't care about the money, or he didn't care about me giving him money, that all he wanted was me to be present in his life, was me understanding that that belief system, that he's conditional, was no longer valid. It no longer carried value. So it ceased to exist. So I was able to finally adopt a new belief. The new belief is that I am worthy, that I am lovable, that I was enough, that I didn't have to give him money, I didn't have to give him things, I didn't have to buy his love, that just me as I am is enough. So that is my story. That is my personal story of when I cease a lie. How, we carry around lies. All of us are carrying around lies. And it's a matter of us unpacking that, unpacking what belongs to us, what is really true, and, getting courageous to talk to those people that we depend on, and to let them know where we stand so we can clear the air. In my case, it was my dad. The moment I became vulnerable with him, he opened up. He shared with me that all he was doing was wanting to make me feel the same way I was making him feel. And he needed me, basically, as I needed him. And so basically, I want all of us, I invite you, I employ all of you to ask yourselves whenever you feel something, ask yourselves, what meaning have I attached to this experience? What meaning have I attached? What does this mean to me? If it's making you feel pain, be honest. Admit to the pain. Admit, so powerful. I cannot stop emphasizing on the power behind admitting. When you feel something, you give validation to those parts of you that are really existing within you. And then that creates room for doors to open for resolution, like what happened with Trillian, Dr. Trillian, the counselor. She allowed a door to open when she admitted the fear, the fear of her loving again. Okay, and then she then attracted her father, contacted her, found her to tell her that he was looking for her and that he never stopped loving her. Powerful. Powerful. So, like I said, I invite you to look at all your definitions that are creating pain, and ask yourselves, what does this mean to me? And be vulnerable. Talk to whatever person that's made you feel like this. If you haven't already, reach out to them. Reach out to your mom, reach out to your dad, your sibling, because it tends to be, our authorities, such as our parents and those that took care of us, our caretakers, that we hold resistance to the most. Talk to them and clear the air. But if you did that already and it's not going to work, contact me. Contact me for a free session, a 30-minute free session. Typically they go over 30, so you'll totally enjoy it. And they're very, very, very powerful, the sessions that I have with my clients. So, yeah, I would be able to shine light and help you kind of like understand where is really coming from and why you're even experiencing what you are experiencing. So anyway, with lots of love and full acceptance, Josie.